Hey darlings. Elena was in a hurry to get home. She had to cook something delicious. It was Friday. Her husband was arriving a little later, so she would do everything on time on the way. She went into a store to buy a good bottle of wine. They had just gotten back together a month ago. Elena liked it. It hurt to think about it, but Victor had left her. He said she had changed, that she was no longer the person he knew. She was bored. Elena looked at him incomprehensibly. Victor, the first will fix it. Just tell me what I have to do. You can't do anything because you would have to fix everything. Elena watched in horror as I put things in the suitcase. Victor, where are you going? I met a woman who was perfect. You can't keep me if you want me to be happy. Music. Elena sat tired on the edge of the bed. How much will her husband be this time? Elena fell in love from time to time. Sometimes it was a flash, as Victor himself said. Sometimes it was an explosion. This was the third time he was gone. Elena was starting to get used to it, apart from the fact that she often didn't spend the night at home, and then she would make up something ridiculous excuse Victor was leaving. But only when she knew true love would she say that this time love was real. It was always the same. Elena got up and helped him pick up his things. Her soul was empty, and she wanted to go to bed as soon as possible every time she saw her husband leave. Elena thought she was single, but after a month or two her husband always came back. Elena would feed him Victor in the kitchen and complain that those women were greedy and liars, and that there was no one better than him, and Elena smiled with sadness. It was strange that someone fell in love with her weak husband. He never approached the sport rather greedy, although maybe he was just greedy with her the last time he was gone 3 weeks. Elena cried at night. She felt sorry for her and for him, but it didn't even happen a single month before the doorbell rang. Elena answered at the door. Her husband was there. After saying, "I'm back," she smiled widely. Elena threw herself on his neck after saying that. They hugged and she cried. Then her husband kept asking her for forgiveness after a couple of days. Elena, I forgive him, and life returned to normal. Today is their wedding anniversary. Elena hoped that Victor would not forget it. Music. Quickly cut the salad, put the chicken in the oven, and set the table. There was still time to tidy up. Elena chose a dress corrected. She thought about her makeup for a while and tied her hair up. She looked much more attractive with this hairstyle. Victor should be arriving soon. She sat in the kitchen to wait when the clock struck midnight. Her husband still didn't show up. Elena opened the wine and poured herself a glass. She congratulated. She drank and went to bed around 4 in the morning. She heard the front door slam and Victor collapsing on the sofa. Elena pressed her face against the pillow and cried how tired she was. She was a normal young woman, but for why didn't her husband love her in the morning? Elena got up while her husband was still sleeping in the bathroom. She saw her husband's shirt in the washing machine, the smell of women's perfume, the lipstick on her collar. She picked up the shirt and went inside. In Victor's room, the husband opened his eyes and looked with. Elena was upset when she saw the shirt in his hands and sat down on the couch. Well, you're going to let me sleep, Victor? What is this? Elena showed him the lipstick marks. Sir, how am I supposed to know? Maybe it was an accident where you hit me. The mistake, or maybe you did it on purpose to fight with me. Victor, that lipstick is red. I have never used it before. How did the lipstick get to the collar of your shirt? The husband went to bed again. Lipstick that makes you think it's a pencil of lips, as if there were no red in the world that you could wear. Get dirty. Look at her being a detective. Elena sighed, tired. Music. Victor, yesterday was our wedding anniversary, and meanwhile, you will have fun with another woman. Victor put on his plaid pants and murmured, congratulations. Let me sleep. Elena looked at him and wondered why he was doing everything this. She went out into the hallway and picked up a large travel bag in silence. So as not to disturb her husband, she entered the bedroom very carefully. So as not to wrinkle anything, she began to put Victor's things in the bag. One bag, of course, wouldn't be enough, but for now she would put the essentials. Victor loved the things. He had more suits than Elena. Many times when there was no more room in the bag, she closed it and put her papers in the side pocket. No. Victor got up and went to the shower serenely. She made an effort to take out the bag into the hallway, leaving it on the floor so that it was immediately visible. He didn't feel like talking to Victor. He went back into the bedroom and closed the door. After a while, he heard Victor come out of the shower. 5 minutes of silence, and he stopped. They heard footsteps. Elena turned against the wall. The door opened. What did you think? You were going to scare me? Did you pack me a suitcase? Yes, thank you. I would love to get out of this house. I won't get lost. There are many places waiting for you. But Victor continued to hurt her, but Elena, he remained stubbornly silent when he finished speaking. Elena turned to him. Please leave the keys on the nightstand in the hallway. Victor's eyes widened at this insolence. I will. Don't worry, but don't chase me down the street. And beg me. Come back. Elena went to bed again. She heard her husband getting ready and calling someone, and then the front door slammed shut. Elena cried, howling, biting the pillow. She wouldn't let him into her life again. How much longer could she do it anyway? It wouldn't get better. Or would she? Elena began to live without her husband. Of course, she was not used to it. He had already left before. He had been away for 6 months before a new adventure threw him out, and he returned home with guilty eyes. Elena only suffered so much the first time that he deceived her so much that she didn't know how to move on, and then she started to get used to it. She went to work, she went to the store, she ate, she slept, and one afternoon when she came back, she ran into the supermarket, and almost immediately she saw her husband, and he was walking with a young woman wearing a coat, unbuttoned, bright red lips. They were laughing, choosing a frying pan. Elena turned around and ran out of the store, running towards her house, barely able to see the way, and she sat in the kitchen in the dark. She sat like that for a while, and then she decided that she had to make urgent repairs, just as she wanted to throw away everything old. Change all the colors. Victor liked blue, but Elena liked gray more. But Elena always did what Victor liked. They were the afternoon ones. Elena. He got to work. First, he had to collect everything that reminded him of Victor. He took out the large garbage bags and began to stack the objects from the bathroom, the rest of his clothes, and even his favorite mug. He dragged the bags down the stairs and knew that had gone too far. It was very hard. On the ground floor, there was a homeless man sitting on the windowsill. They often came to have something hot, but usually they were in very drunk and noisy company, and this man was sober. He was sitting with his feet up and looking out the window when he saw Elena. He jumped down from the windowsill like a schoolboy and said, "Let me help you." At first, Elena wanted to tell her to go away, but she realized she wouldn't make it alone. She nodded. The homeless man easily picked up her bags and took them to the dump. Elena kept the door open until she returned. He helped her. He couldn't leave. He helped her. He couldn't leave her out in the open. He looked at her gratefully and settled back down on the windowsill. Elena was surprised by his gaze. So intelligent. So shrewd. Woman came home now. She wanted to knock over the table. This table had come to her with Victor on it. There was a laptop where Victor used to meet his new loves. Elena bought it for her husband for his birthday. The table was small, but unusually. Elena could only drag her to the hallway and stared at the table. I'll iron it in half or I'll break it. But now it's not too late and I'll bother the neighbors. She opened the door and the homeless man was still sitting on the windowsill. Sorry. The homeless man is gone. He turned around. Could you help me again? He walked up to her. He looked at the table and asked where the trash should go to. Music? Elena smiled. That's where it will be. Elena's smile made the man smile. She was surprised to see his teeth white and smooth. A homeless man has a smile. So the man picked up the table and took it downstairs. Elena went to the kitchen. She opened the refrigerator. She quickly put chops and pasta on a plate and put it in the microwave. When she opened the door to her house, the homeless man was back in her seat. Elena brought her a tray. She left it on the floor and said, "You just have to ring the bell later and I'll pick up the dishes." The man looked at her in amazement. "Thank you very much. You're welcome." Elena left and wondered what had happened to the homeless man. No, looked like old man didn't seem to be drinking all week. While Selena cleaned her apartment, the homeless man was there. Elena called him if he couldn't do something and fed him. One day Elena couldn't reach the ledge. The ledge had been hanging crooked for a year and was about when she got rid of it. She looked through the door. The homeless man was in his seat. Elena was under a flight of stairs. Could she help me again? The homeless man looked at her and smiled. Tell me what I can do. She led him inside the apartment and pointed out the cornice while the man screwed it. And Elena asked him his name. He called me Manuel. I want a coffee from Manuel. He turned around. A coffee would be great. I like it a lot, but I can't have it very often. In the kitchen, the water was boiling and the coffee was almost ready. Sorry if it's indiscreet. Manuel, how long have you been on the street? The man smiled. No need to apologize, Elena. Anyway, I can't answer your question. I don't remember anything. I remember waking up in the basement in these clothes. That's all. Since then I've been wandering. I tried to get a job. But I don't even have a passport. Elena listened and realized that the man could have a home and a family somewhere, but he may never remember. Manuel left and Elena went to bed the next day. Manuel was not at the window. Elena was surprised. She was very used to him being there. 2 more days passed, but Elena still did not appear. She even worried where he could have gone. 3 days later, she went out at night and decided to walk through the neighboring patios in case she ran into him, asking what had happened. I couldn't find Manuel, but he met a lot of people. Then he saw a group of homeless people. They were sitting in a gazebo and singing. Elena approached them with determination. Excuse me, do you know where I can find Manuel? One of the old homeless people laughed. So I could find him, you need, but the other one is scared. He is sick. He is lying in his basement with a high fever. The homeless man pointed to the basement of an uninhabited house. Elena went there. She turned on the flashlight on her phone and almost immediately she found Manuel. He was lying in a mattress in tatters, breathing hard. Elena touched his shoulder. Manuel opened his eyes. Elena, what are you doing here? Manuel, can you get up? I will help you. Yes, I suppose so. Elena helped Manuel get up, and they walked. Manuel found it difficult to walk a lot, but he was trying. It was dark, and Elena thought it was good that the neighbors couldn't see her dragging a homeless man from the street to her house at home. Elena made Manuel immediately take a handful of pills. After minutes, Manuel felt better. The sweat was dripping off of him. Manuel looked at Elena. Excuse me, can I take a shower? I haven't showered in a month. Elena pointed to the bathroom. She gave him a towel and brought him her husband's robe. The robe was big. Someone had given it to Victor, and it didn't match the size. It was still in the new closet. The temperature had dropped temporarily, but it will soon rise again. Manuel nodded and got into the shower. Elena went to the kitchen. She was going to make something to eat. She heard the door open and a handsome young man greeted her. I looked. Elena, you will have to excuse me. I found a razor there and I shaved my beard. Manuel tried to refuse, saying he didn't want to eat, but Elena almost forced him to eat half the bowl of soup. Thank you very much. I'm going to go now. I'm going too far. He got up and Elena noticed how she was swinging. She stood up after him with determination. Okay, no one is going anywhere. I'll make you a bed on the couch. You can stay with me until you get better. Manuel looked at her in amazement. Elena made the bed for him, and Manuel went to bed right away. Elena checked that she was. I slept before. Her head touching the pillow at night woke her up with a moan. Elena ran into the room and touched Manuel's forehead. That was it. He was on fire, turning in his sleep. Elena picked up the phone with determination. It was the morning, but she hoped that her friend I would understand. Hello, Miriam. Hello, I'm sorry I woke you up. No, I'm working there. If you see, I have a man here with a terrible fever. He is delirious. I don't know how to help him. Well, then call the ambulance, and we will be there. Miriam, I will tell you. I'll explain later, but he doesn't have any documents. There was a pause on the phone. Oh, friend, being single, the night has been good for you. Unknown men. Now let's go, but only on one condition, that you tell me everything later, Miriam. It's not that. It depends. Once soon, the doorbell rang. The door. Miriam entered with a large suitcase. She examined Manuel. She gave him a few injections, and then she called Elena to the kitchen. Elena, let's go where those handsome men are. It's a dream, not a man, and what a body. Miriam rolled her eyes. Elena told him. He tapped you lightly. You have a husband, girl, and 3 children at home. Miriam laughed and suddenly became serious. Elena, I'm sure she has pneumonia, and it's bad. She should go to the hospital, like I told you. She doesn't even have a passport. Music. Very good. This is it. The deal has a prescription, but because it's you and you doctor him every 8 hours. Miriam wrote him a bunch of papers. Elena carefully wrote down what she injects and in what order. In the morning, while Manuel was sleeping, she ran to the pharmacy. When he got home, Manuel woke up giving a bang. He abruptly sat up in Toshio and collapsed again on the pillow. He looked at Elena. She was spreading the medicine on the table, reading something on a piece of paper, and spreading it again. Then she washed her hands and started taking out a syringe. Manuel looked at her with scared eyes. I didn't know. Say that you were afraid of injections. Manuel shook his head and closed his eyes. Elena Lee saw some broth and made him some hot tea at night. Manuel felt a little better. Elena brought a big cup of tea for him and her a vase with cookies. He turned on the television. His favorite program was on. Manuel took a sip of his tea and looked at Elena. Young, barely years old, pretty. So pretty that Elena's beauty was discreet. You could pass by and not notice her. But if you look closely, if a smile flashes, you understand that the person is very beautiful. Music. Where is her husband? I don't have a husband. I am free as a bird. My husband preferred other ladies before he tolerated me. Forgive him, and then my art, and now I am alone. Elena, he laughed, only now he realized that it felt so good. No one was lying. No one had to wait for anyone. Manuel stayed silent and then said, I don't understand how someone can deceive you. How could he leave you? Elena looked carefully at Manuel, and their eyes met. Elena hurried to the kitchen the next day. Next, the doorbell woke them both up. Only one person could arrive so early and knock so insistently for his Miriam. Elena opened the door on the threshold, smiling. Miriam interrupted. The two entered the room. Manuel looked at Miriam and then at Elena. Well, young man, let's take a look. Miriam took a small medical bag out of her bag. I took her temperature and listened to her lungs. Well, that's good, you're recovering. Miriam took Elena to the kitchen and closed the door. Elena sweat wing, and she told him everything to his friend Miriam and listened without interrupting, shaking his head from time to time. As a doctor, I can say that this man has not been lazy all his life, judging by his body. He has gone to the gym. He asked me what happened to him. Remembers something, nothing in absolute. Just from the moment she woke up in the basement. Okay, I have a doctor I know who deals with this kind of stuff. But you have the money. It's not cheap. Yes, Miriam, I have the money. I'm always saving just in case. Miriam left and Elena rushed. Let's tell Manuel everything. Imagine if you remember everything. Then we can get all your papers, and you can live like a normal person. 2 days later, Miriam called. The doctor was waiting for them at her house on Friday. Elena hurried. She wanted to buy him clothes. Manuel said it wasn't necessary, that he would take his own clothes. Elena didn't know how to say that she had already thrown them away. The store left, and Manuel was left wondering if he wasn't a homeless man. I wonder if Elena would have liked it. Manuel realized that Elena was an incredible woman. Elena came back with the new clothes. Manuel was very embarrassed, but he put it all on to see if it was his size. When the dwarf came out, she recognized him in front of her. There was a man that women dream about at night. Manuel cut his hair. Elena couldn't take her eyes off him. If only she would like him. I wish they had overcome everything together. And at night they were sitting drinking tea when suddenly Elena felt a thorn in her eyes. She looked up in the morning. She woke up first lying down. She looked at Manuel. It was so. Manuel opened his eyes. Suddenly he put his arms around her and told her, what if we don't go anywhere? And if I have an angry wife or 5 children? Manuel, don't worry, he wrote. Come on, get dressed. They arrived at the clinic. Manuel went to have an exam on. Doctor said that it was at least 2 hours. Elena waited patiently. Then they were invited to see the doctor. To see Manuel, you are in great physical shape. I can tell that you don't like alcohol, and it doesn't look like you've ever smoked. You don't have any chronic illness, but you have a pretty big scar, big on the head, like a blow. Do you remember when you did it? No, I don't remember. When I woke up, my head hurt, and I was bleeding, but somehow he quickly assured me, and I see this is the cause. We will start the treatment with medication, and if that doesn't work, then hypnosis. I warn you that you may have a headache, but it won't last long. A week later, Elena returned to work. Manuel's headaches didn't bother her. Elena already thought that nothing would help her. It was very nice to come home being welcomed and appreciated. Miriam was the happiest of all for Elena. She and her husband even visited them. Manuel and Miriam's husband immediately became friends, but Miriam's husband repeated several times that Manuel's face made him sad. It seemed familiar today. Elena came home eagerly, but there was no light in the windows. She opened the house with her key and entered. There was no one at home. It was dark, quiet. Elena turned on the light. There was a note on the kitchen table. Elena, I remembered I have to go away for a while. I took some money from you. I'll give it back to you. Elena sat down at the table. That was it. She understood that Manuel would never come back. It can't be that a man like that doesn't have a family. Yes, of course he does. Elena picked up the phone and called his friend. Music. Miriam, can you come and bring something to drink? What happened? Music. She remembered everything and left. An hour later, Miriam and Roberto were at home. They sat in silence and drank. Elena was crying. Miriam started to console her, and Roberto, he entered the room and turned on the television. 10 minutes later, he shouted, girls, come here. The women rushed into the room. The news was on a businessman from the capital who had disappeared without a trace 2 years ago, had been found today. Roberto shouted, I told you I had seen that face. He appeared often on television. He owned factories, newspapers, and port ships. The news says that the businessman's wife and best friend have been arrested. The man was paid. Boom. Not until that he remembered everything and came to the police. His father recognized him. The entire office staff and the machinery of justice turned. They expected that the man would not survive and would be buried like any other homeless man. But things worked out differently. Elena realized that now there was no hope for Manuel to return. A week passed. Elena went to work, she ate, she slept. Everything was so disgusting that nothing pleased her. One afternoon, she was returning home. On a bench outside her house, she saw her husband with a suitcase. No, that was all he needed. He approached him. "What are you doing here?" "Elena, I'm here for you." I realized he was wrong. He said all this and headed towards the entrance. If it had been like this before, Elena would have been happy to run in front of him, opening it for him. The doors. Victor, the husband, turned around. "Victor, where are you going?" "Where? Home. Maybe you have forgotten, but you left for another woman. This is my house, and you no longer matter there." Victor grabbed her arm and squeezed it painfully. "You will be very sorry to cry, so you will ask for forgiveness on your knees. Whoever needs you can now let go of that woman." A calm voice came from behind her, a voice that Elena would have recognized among 1,000. Victor pushed her hands away. He turned around slowly. Music. Manuel was standing, so big, so handsome. Behind him, 2 large men moved from one foot to the other. One of them asked Don Manuel, "We took him out." He nodded. "Just be careful not to hit him." The men picked up the frightened Victor under their arms and took him away. Manuel looked at Elena, and she at him. Tears flowed from his eyes. Suddenly Manuel ran to the car and took out a huge bouquet of flowers. "Take it, I forgot." Manuel smiled, and Elena rushed towards him. She hugged him, kissed him, and cried, "Come on, why are you crying so much? It took me so long. I'm sorry I couldn't do it immediately." I looked into her eyes. "You thought she was not going to come back?" Elena nodded and cried even more, but this time she was finally crying with happiness.